Welcome to another edition of MTG Deck Techs with Sean. This week we are diving into the world of Modern to see what new, broken, and linear strategies are positioning to punish the answer-restricted format even more. The deck this week is the new Vengevine shell that is most recently piloted to a third place in the Star City Games results by Joe Stimpo. The Vengevine shell is built to apply swift pressure through low CMC of its creatures. We will look at the ways it fuels its graveyard for explosive turns soon, but first we need to look at why we would run the list. Why do we run Vengevine over Dredge, or more recently the popular Pro Tour winning Hollow 1 shells? You will see the deck makes very specific decisions instead of potentially negative impacts of the random cards coming down from Hollow 1. The list runs 35 creatures, with 25 of them costing 0 to 1 mana. This means that as we self-mill or discard, our vines can be quickly returned and put a quick clock on the opponent with 4/3 haste bodies. The Vengevine is never being cast from our deck, but instead coming from the graveyard through quick play of 0 to 1 mana creatures. The deck also runs multiple ways to abuse Bridge from Below into an army of creatures that you would have to visit Legacy or Vintage to see similar results with. The deck has many creatures that die on entry or die from effects to trigger as many bridges as can be placed in the graveyard. If you're facing the deck, it is important to kill one of your creatures quickly so that way it doesn't get out of hand. The deck gets to generate a 1 mana sack outlet in the form of Greater Gargadon that allows the sacrificed 1/1s or other utility creatures to turn into zombies, as an approaching 9 power also comes to the board. For many creatures in the deck, the zombies are an upgrade to the body, so you play the creature for its effect, and then you sacrifice it to Gargadon in order to trigger a Bridge from Below. If you have multiple bridges in the graveyard, you also get to generate a mass of 2/2 zombies. What better way to use the 2/2 zombies than to turn them into 3/2s with haste through a Goblin Bushwhacker. With Goblin Bushwhacker, you're able to anthem and haste your zombies to attack all in the same turn, and it's important to remember that Goblin Bushwhacker's trigger goes on the stack. So if you have a sack outlet, before the +1/0 haste trigger resolves, you can sacrifice the Bushwhacker to another creature or another effect on the battlefield, such as Greater Gargadon, to make multiple more zombies who will also get the +1/+0 and haste effect, which is better than the 1/1 body of the Bushwhacker. How do we keep our deck constantly churning out the threats? Well, with most linear and broken red decks using the graveyards, it starts with Faithless Looting. This card is vital for getting bridges and vines out of your hand and into the graveyard where they belong. You get to replace these awkward pieces with more cheap triggers, and you cast Looting even with 0 cards in hand, because if you windmill a vine or a bridge into the graveyard, your plan just advances. Stitch's Apprentice also entered from the M19 block to be a full set in the deck. It allows you to dig 3 cards deep, or even go 6 cards deep if you have a way to sacrifice it immediately, or chump block with it. With your sack outlets, you can use the Stitch's Apprentice to put 6 cards in the graveyard and generate some 2/2s or Vengevines. Gravecaller is a resilient means of rebuying vines as you cast the zombie from hand, or if you control another zombie, such as one created from the Bridge from Below, you can cast it from your graveyard. It's important to remember that with sack outlets and a bridge in the yard, you can also cast a top deck crawler, sack it to the sack outlet, getting a zombie from your bridge that's in the graveyard, and then whenever the zombie trigger resolves, you regain priority and cast your Gravecrawler. This second casting means that your one Gravecrawler you top decked is able to pull out any Vengevines you have in your graveyard, as well as making some 2/2s. Similar to the boost that Dredge received, we also run Insolent Neonate as a 4-of. This is a cheap means to rebuy vines because it only costs 1 mana, but it has the added value that you can trigger Bridge by sacrificing it to itself, putting a vine in the graveyard, and cycling through your deck. This little 1/1 does everything you need to pressure your opponents. Bloodghast is not a card you want to cast, so it's not going to really trigger your vines, but it acts as Vengevines number 5 through 7. It does have some synergies, such as with the sack land and another sack outlet such as Gargadon. You can sacrifice Bloodghast, get a zombie off of a Bridge from Below, sacrifice your fetch land, get your Bloodghast again, and then repeat. One of the other sack outlets is 2-of in the form of Viscera Seer. The Seer lets you sack like the Gargadon does. So both of these sack outlets allow you to protect Vengevines and Bloodghasts from Path to Exiles. But it also has small synergies in the form of triggering your zombies off Bloodghasts. It negates any removal spells if you have a bridge in your graveyard, because as they try to remove the creatures in play, you sacrifice the creature just to get another one. The final batch of creatures are the oddballs in the form of the Kaladesh Home Run Walking Ballista, and its precursor in the form of Hangerback Walker from the Origin set. These 2 artifacts can be cast for various effects if the games go long, but they're truthfully in the deck as 0-drop creatures that rebuy vines for no mana and trigger bridges for free as they are cast, enter, and die immediately. The deck uses a streamlined mana base that aims to run on the low end, as the true CMC of the deck is very low. With the exception of Goblin Bushwhacker, you never really want to cast a card for more than 1 mana. The deck runs 8 fetch lands for thinning and to get your Bloodghast triggers, with less than 8 targets. It also runs a set of Black Cleave Cliffs for the speed of the game. The deck runs 2 Blood Crypt, 1 Sacred Foundry, and 1 Godless Shrine, as well as 1 Mountain. The white dual lands only have sideboard implications that we're going to see later. Drawing multiple lands in a row can be a nail in the deck's coffin, so we want to operate on as little mana as possible, using Faithless Looting, Enslint Neonate, and fetch lands to thin and get rid of excess lands. 9 of the deck's sideboard slots are built to sustain the combo. The deck runs a full set of Thoughtseizes and a singular Collective Brutality to slow other linear lists down, but as this is one of the fastest decks in the format, the primary goal of these cards is to strip away cards that might interfere, such as Surgical Extraction and Rest in Peace, before the plan can be ruined. The deck also runs 4 Wispmares to interact with various enchantments and potentially trigger bridges and vines all at once. When facing a Rest in Peace or a Leyline of the Void, you might cast this card regularly, but against decks such as Boggles, where you want to blow up a singular enchantment that isn't exiling your graveyard, you can evoke it to trigger your Vengevines, trigger your Bridge from Below, and blow up the enchantment that you want to blow up. The last of the sideboard is a bit of hate and protection in the form of Leyline of the Void and Ingot Chewer. The Chewer allows the simple attacks on decks such as Affinity or KCI, while flexing to blow up Grafdigger's Cages or force early pops on a Relic of Progenitus. The Chewer is also an evoke creature, keeping it similar to the Mare as a 1-mana cast that also dies on entry to trigger bridges and vines. Finally, the Leyline hits a various set of lists such as the Mirror, Dredge, Goyf Shells, Snapcaster or Delve lists, and even your assembled KCI deck. Anything else trying to assemble graveyard interactions, Leyline of the Void is a really effective way to answer right out of the opening. This list gains more decisions and control on outcomes than Hollow One, but at the cost of being weaker to Rest in Peace. Do you feel this latest addition to the category Graveyard Breakers or Faithless Looting Shells is a top contender or a splash that can be hated out too easily? Have you played or seen the deck, and are the rumors of storming zombie hordes true? Comment below with your thoughts on the list. As always, make sure to give us a like or a follow on YouTube and Twitch to get the latest video content, or to let us know what you want to see streamed, written about, or deck teched. Give us a follow or shout out on Twitter, Facebook, or down below in the comments at MTG Deck Techs.